there is so much. Now, here's an off topic a bit, Phoenix, but one of the ironies of the information age that we're supposed to live in, where everything is instantaneous, and there you have instantaneous access to anything you want to know right now.
Yes.
Through Google or Bing or whatever. But the double-edged sword is that there is as much disinformation and misinformation and propaganda, and people are buying into this crap and passing it off. I mean, it's a lot worse. You'd forget about the Rhino Times. I mean, you can go on the internet and find any number of conspiracy theories about, how Obama is clearly a Kenyan national, Muslim, baby killer, Marxist. It boggles the mind that it's really easy to disprove some of this stuff, but nobody is calling them on it. They're just buying into this and then passing it off as if it were fact. And that's why we have, the teabaggers out there, the birthers out there, the crazy people who are shutting down the government because the law of the land, they don't like the law of the land. That was passed by both houses of Congress, signed by the president, and upheld by the Supreme Court.
Right.
Well, we don't like it. We'll shut down your goddamn government.
Right. Yeah, and how many times have the Democrats done anything like that?
Not any to my knowledge.
Exactly. Like the last time that we had a government shutdown, was it 96, 97?
Newt.
Of course.
The Newtster.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, they really do act like little babies that taking their ball
churlish
home.
Little kids. I'll take my ball and go home. And I can only hope that it will backfire on them like it did for the Newtster and the GOP.
You're right,
because midterm elections.
Newt was on the absolute top of the mountain, and right after that, he fell harder than I remember seeing a lot of people fall.
Kicked out of the house.
Yeah.
Pretty hard fall.
Well, he deserved it.
Yeah.
Years he deserved that.
We really need to get rid of these teabaggers who have no idea about the art of governance. They're in there to get their point across. It's all about ideology. It's not about finding solutions to them. Everything revolves around ideology and intransigence and not compromising and not working across the aisle.
Not negotiating.
And what politics is compromise.
Yes.
You cannot get away from that.
Yes.
Two opposing views have to find some common ground in the middle to get anything done, to get any laws passed, to have any progress in society, to make things better. But no. No, it's either my way or the highway. It's not even the highway, it's my way, period.
Now, with things moving more over to the web, do you think that there's been, and we just talked about how everything's wide open, do you think there's been, on the pro side, better, has investigative reporting moved to the web, or is it?
A lot of it has, it really has. A lot of it, and this is fairly recent because up until last few years it was still the New York Times, the Post, LA, all the big papers had the resources to do the heavy lifting. But now you've got people popping up, Politico, Huffington Post, Media Matters. They have got some serious journalists working for them now that have come over from papers, and are doing, The Nation is doing some stuff, David Corn. A lot of these people are with strong media background as investigative journalists. They're now not working for the papers, they're working for the websites.
One of my favorites was Palast, Greg Palast, but what he did for the for America during the Bush Florida fiasco, I thought should always put him, in my opinion, up there with like the heroes of America.
Yeah, I know.
And he seemed to have been one of the very first who moved from. Well, he was. I take that back. He was being paid by the BBC, if I remember right. But now I think he's moved more into internet.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
I don't know where he is now.
Yeah, I don't either.
I remember Matt Taibbi is another one, although he is still with Rolling Stone.
Okay.
But he is. I think he's working for a website as well, and a lot of them are still working for both. But so it's not to say that there's not any investigative stuff going on. It's just it's almost taken a back seat to the Miley Cyrus stuff.
Now, why do you think that websites like the Huffington Post and these others are taking more of a role in investigative reporting?
I think just the times we live in, because it's clearly the wave of the future, and if you don't jump on board with it, you're just going to miss out. I think much, and I'm an old newspaper guy.
Yeah.
I really am, and it hurts to say it, but if you don't get your web product as good as it can possibly be, you're not going to make it. Your print product is just not going to carry the freight anymore. It's just not going to do it.
Right.
I think you can still have a good quality print product with a good beefed up newsroom, but you better be up to the minute with your web content too. And that's the way we're going. It's going to be up to the minute. The citizen journalists with flip cams are going to be out there sending content in more and more. We're seeing it already.
And what do you what's your opinion on that?
Well, I kind of mixed emotions about that too, Vinny. I'd like to think that journalism is a distinguished, reputable craft that should be practiced by people who went to school and studied it and know the ethics behind it, of how to balance a story and how to be fair and do your homework, do your due diligence. But then on the other hand, intelligent people can go out that have common sense and see a story and can kind of figure out what's a story and what's not. So I think I'm becoming okay with just regular folks out there seeing something and making a story out of it. I think we're going to see it. I do.
Well, even before the internet, would we have heard about Rodney King?
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that one guy.
Very true.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it doesn't. It's not like the citizen journalists are going to be taking over things, but everybody in the world's got a cell phone camera now. You can't ignore that. You can take that content and take it to your website, your TV station, your daily newspaper, and have them take it and make it into a story. But it could start with you, whether you don't have to develop the thing, but it can start with just me or you seeing a robbery in place across the street or whatever. But yeah, I see it happening.
And just as the robbery is finishing, we could already have it up on the.
Yeah.
That's what's so amazing about it. It's this type of thing. Now, what do you think that does to the reader, the viewer?
I think it makes us more demanding. I think it makes us expect the instant gratification of instant news, the 24-hour news cycle. I think that's a double-edged sword too, in a way.
Well, we can talk a little bit about what happened yesterday, right? Because before, you would get information in, it would be filtered for maybe an hour, and then that information would go out. So you wouldn't have had, it's a black Lexus, no, it's a black Infinity.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you have to almost realize that when you're getting breaking news, some of it isn't going to be quite true.
And it's not, and it happens all the time. All the time. Another case in point with the shooter at the naval base in D.C. You heard 20 different conflicting stories about, was it one guy, was it several guys, did he have a shotgun, did he have a submachine gun, did he work there, where did he, are there 20 people dead, are there 5 people dead? You heard, you could flick the channel, and even the same media outlet was conflicting their own stories, It's nuts being that instantaneously because you don't have the filter. You got to put it out there. You got to try to beat the next guy with something. You got to get some content out there,
right?
Whether it's right or not, And that whole thing about not that long ago, an editor would say, "We cannot run with this thing. We got to have this thing sourced again. We cannot go on one person. We've got to have it sourced.
Right.
You got to go out and find some corroboration on this story, or we're not going to run it." And you'd see guys on the phone, dialing their sources. Can you tell me anything about this? This is what I know. Can you corroborate it? And now you're getting, well, so-and-so heard that, the building fell down. Let's get it out there. We don't know if it was a bomb, and a lot of it had to do with 9/11 too.
Yeah.
with so much conflicting stuff. Was it a bomb? Was it an airplane? Was it the Russians? Was it the communists? Was it the terrorists? Was it a crazy drunk in a Piper Cub? You know,
Right.
I mean, it's crazy.
Now, I like to look at evolution as opposed to just like bam. There's a lot of people are like, oh, the internet. But CNN started this 24-hour news cycle. CNN started this competition.
They did, yeah.
You know, so it's just something that's moving over. You know, so it already existed.
It did, yeah.
You know, so what we're going to have to do now is maybe this makes sense. Maybe educate the populace, the reader, the user, into understanding that just because it's breaking news doesn't actually mean that it's factual breaking news. You know, that we're trying to get it out as fast as possible, but some of this is going to be wrong, y'all.
Yeah.
You know, keep that in mind.
And I guess most people are intelligent enough to know that, but it's still kind of exasperating when you hear conflicting three different stories within 2 minutes of the same event.
And that opens up for conspiracy.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
You know,
it feeds into that whole conspiracy. You know,
because I just remember that awful tragedy with the just not too long ago. I'm trying to think. Sandy Hook. Same thing with them. There's 3 shooters. There's 2 shooters. What about that person out in the woods that we have video getting arrested? What's going on? What's happened? You know, so now it feeds into this whole conspiracy that it wasn't just this one kid, but maybe now it's an MK Ultra Black Ops, event.
I know.
You know, now is I'm gonna just kind of open-ended question. Do you think there's any way that that's going to ever change? Is the internet always just going to sort of have its bullshit? Or do you think we're going to get to a point where it begins to tighten up some?
I don't see it. I mean, unless you would have to regulate it somehow, and I would much prefer having an open, free dialogue, even though half of it might be bullshit, than having some, big entity saying, no, let's don't show this because it might be offensive or prurient or whatever. That's just kind of the price you pay for a free society with the technological advances we've seen. We can live with it. I mean, I can live with, I'm smart enough to know that some of what I'm seeing on breaking news is bullshit. And I think most people are. But there again, you have the low information people out there that just buy into this, and then they hear a conflicting, see, I knew it was it. That damn Obama, he's controlling it all, he's manufacturing all this horse shit,
I'm going to